Welcome back from lunch. I'm Angela Brady, and we are in the Contracts and Closings class. And prior to lunch, you had the opportunity to go over the Offer to Purchase and Contract, the Form 2T. Now that you have seen the 2T, you've gone over it line by line, and you've also been given a scenario. We are going to go over that scenario together as a group. What I want us to look at right now is that the form that you went over earlier was the 2T, Offer to Purchase and Contract. If you were to do a contract on a property that was not residential property, but say it was for a vacant lot or land, what form would you use for that?
12T.
12T.
The 12T, that is correct. I heard it coming from all over the place. 12T, very good. So the 2T is for residential property, and the 12T is for a vacant lot or land. Now, this is the particular form that we had the opportunity to look at line by line earlier today. And now we're going to get into the scenario. How did you enjoy that scenario prior to lunch? Was it a little bit confusing at times?
Interesting.
It was interesting. It was a little confusing. Do you think that sometimes when we place an offer to purchase, we write up an offer to purchase for a buyer, do you think it sometimes gets confusing between the buyer and the seller?
Yes.
Absolutely. Did you learn something from that scenario?
Yes.
Excellent. Now let's see what we learned, and let's see what we might be able to discover in addition to that. But before we do, there's a few things I want to touch on one more time. Remember that we will never, ever do anything except fill in the blanks. We will fill in the blanks. We will always make sure that it is typed or printed in ink. It must always be typed or printed in ink. We cannot leave any blank spaces. If there's a blank space, we will put an NA, and in areas where it says to put none, we will write none if it doesn't apply. We also must make sure that we are precise. And when we get to the street address in just a moment, we will talk about why it needs to be precise. And then last of all, we want to make sure that all parties initial all changes. All parties initial all changes. Now, let us get to the scenario. First of all, take out the packet that you received prior to lunch that you worked together as a group. Does everybody have their packet?
Yes.
Very good. Candace Irene Simmons and her husband, Bernard Bernie Alexander Simmons, live in a rental property in Nashville, North Carolina. Everyone knows Bernard as Bernie because he refuses to go by the name Bernard. Now, Candace, being the more formal of the two, she likes to go by a more formal name, so she calls herself Mrs. Candace Irene Simmons. That's how she fills out all of her legal documents. Even though she had her name changed when they got married, her driver's license still states Candace Irene Pinkleton. Let's briefly look at this. So we're going to look at the buyer. This is Bernie and Candace. Bernard Bernie Alexander Simmons and Mrs. Candace Irene Simmons, aka Candace Irene Pinkleton. Look at the name. And how do you think we need to sign up to write in that name on the offer to purchase and contract?
Candace Irene Simmons.
Okay. I heard over here and I saw a hand over here. I saw your hand.
Yeah, I said,
Shanta?
I would say Mrs. Candace Irene Simmons.
Very good. Shanta said Mrs. Candace Irene Simmons. Now, did anybody else have another name over here that they thought they should use?
Drop the Mrs.
You stated drop the Mrs. Very good. Would we ever use the maiden name?
No.
Now we have somebody wondering over here.
If that is the name that she kept on her Social Security card.
Well, she is stating if that's the name she kept on her Social Security card,
That's her legal name.
that would be her legal name. So it's on her driver's license and her Social Security card.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that.
But it doesn't, that's correct, it doesn't state that.
Her legal name is Mrs. Candace Irene Simmons, and if she prefers to be called Mrs. Candace Irene Simmons, from my understanding, as long as you keep it consistent throughout the contract, you can use Mrs. Candace Irene Simmons.
So Shanta stated that since it wasn't stated anything about the social security card, Risha, and due to the fact that she's being consistent with Candace Irene Simmons, and that's what she prefers to be called, and that is her new legal name because she's got the marriage license to prove it, the wise thing that she should do is when she goes to the attorney, bring her marriage license with her. That way she'll be able to prove her actual legal name. And it'd be very wise for her to go and get her driver's license changed as quickly as possible, since that's what she's going to be going to. Yes, Risha?
Would you use Mrs. on a legal document?
I would not use Mrs. I would just put, and in fact, when you're using zip forms, it would be very wise to put Bernard Alexander Simmons, comma, Candace Irene Simmons. Because when you put the comma, it divides the names when it comes time to put the signatures. If you put an and, the entire name, both names show up with an and. So it's very wise to put a comma there. Yes, Shanta?
But is that just a preference? I mean, you can, if she wants to be called Mrs. on her documents, can she? I mean, as long as it's consistent. I mean, I would like to know because I put it on contract.
You won't get in trouble for putting it on there, but it's wiser just to use the first name.
Okay.
Okay. So you won't get into any trouble, but it's just wiser to use the first name. Let's go to our next portion. The couple has been searching for a new home in the city. The couple has been searching for a new home in the city for 2 months. They have a buyer's agent named Betty. And Betty believes she is from Real Time Realty, and she believes she has found them the perfect house. It is located at 576 Eclipse Avenue in Raleigh. And the list price is $198,500. It is listed by George from Providence Realty. After showing the Simmons the property, they fell in love with the house. However, they noticed that there were several boards on the back deck, and also the back door lock was damaged. So let's do a little review here. Buyer's agent is Betty, and that's her with the Simmons. She found them the perfect house. It is listed by George. He's the listing agent with Providence Realty. The house is listed for $198,500. And you see the deck and the back door lock. Very good. I was about to give something away there by accident. Now the buyers told Betty that they wanted this house, and they expected that the seller would repair the back deck and also would repair the door lock. And if they would do that, then they will offer a full price, but they wanted $4,000 worth of closing costs to be paid for by the seller. They also wanted that really nice, expensive refrigerator that was located in the kitchen, and they wanted a home warranty for $425,000. So this is a little review here. They're going to place a call offer, $4,000 worth of closing costs, the refrigerator and repairs, home warranty, and they probably wanted as much as they could get. Very good. Now, in addition to this, when you received your scenario, when you received your packet, you received tax records and a lot of information. Let's do a quick summary over what you received prior to lunch. The contract date is September 22nd. The due diligence period ends on October 10th. The due diligence fee is $250. The earnest money is going to be $2,000, and it's going to be written in a personal check. The closing date is going to be October 31st. The Homeowners Association is Lunar Hill, and they have to pay $125 annually for the Homeowners Association dues. It is going to be a VA loan. Now, this is a very important bit of information. And also, the closing attorney is Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. Now, in addition to this, we have seller's disclosures that were located on the MLS. By the way, a closing attorney gave me the name for the closing firm. So I didn't come up with it. It was an attorney in Raleigh that gave me that name for this scenario. We did it together. Now, the disclosures, we have the We have both the residential property and owners association disclosure, and we also have the mineral, oil, and gas rights disclosure, which is located on the MLS. These are the disclosures that we have. In regards to the tax records, we know that the sellers' names are Clifton, that's their last names. It is Dwight and Carly C. Clifton, and they are located, the property is 576 what? Eclipse, that's right, 576 Eclipse. A little bit more information that we have is we also have all the tax information. It came from Wake County. We have the deed book and page. Now, if you will do me a favor and pull out your offer to purchase, and let's do this together now, line by line. We've already discussed how we are going to write in the buyer's name. And the buyer's name was Bernard Alexander Simmons, comma, Candace Irene Simmons. How will we list the seller's name, which is in the top spot? That's right, Dwight T. Clifton, Faith just stated, and Carly C. Clifton. That will be how we will write in their name. In regards to the property address, what will we list here? Will we only list the street address? Why not? Why wouldn't the street address be good enough?
It's not a legal description.
Very good, that's correct. Danella, it is not a legal description. And there's only one time you will simply use a street address. When will that be? Very good, in a lease. Excellent. Now we are going to put in the street address first, and that was 576 Eclipse Avenue. What city was it in?
Raleigh.
Raleigh. What county?
Wake.
What was the zip code? Very good. Now, what was the subdivision name? Actually, it would be Lunar Hill. Sunset at Lunar Hill you can list as well. Now, the plat book and slide number. Where did you find the plat book and slide number? That's right, on the tax records. Jim said on the page you gave us. That's the tax record. Very good. The slide number was 124, 164. How about the PIN or the tax number? Somebody raise your hand and tell me what that PIN number was. Yes, sir.
It is 9813636.
Very good. Earl just stated 9813636. And the other description or the legal description, what would that be? Who would like to state what the legal description would be? Raise your hand. Legal description, it states here other, and on the tax record it states legal description. They're referring to the same. Yes?
Lot 9, Sunset, AT, Lunar Hill, 0.25 AC.
Very good. He just stated it. Lot 9, Sunset at Lunar Hill. And then in parentheses it has 0. What?
24.
24 AC. Very good. Thank you. Ron, thank you. Okay, and when it comes to the deed page and number, or the deed book and page, where would that be located? Again, on the tax records, but what would that number be? What would we place there? Would we place the first deed number, or the bottom, or the middle? Which one will we use?
Top.
Excellent. Amelia and Risha, the recent one, the one that's on top, right? And that would be 9277 and 586. Now when it comes to filling in the offer to purchase, what was the amount of money that they stated that they would pay originally? $198.5. That is correct. $198.5, Angelina. And what was the amount of due diligence money that they said that they would pay? $250. And the earnest money? $2,000. What will we put in these next 4 spaces, since they are not applicable?
NA.
NA. And over where it says initial earnest money deposit, I want you to put personal check. And also where it says or within 5 days of the effective date of the contract, put an X there as well. because they're not going to give the money immediately to Betty. They want to make sure the offer has been accepted previously, so that's why they would wish that. And the bottom number, 198,500 less 2,250, what would be that total? 196,250, was that Shante?
Yes.
Okay, 196,250, thank you, Shante. Now, what will you have your buyers do in addition to that on the first page? There's one more thing they need to do on this first page. That's right, both of them need to initial at the bottom of each page. Make sure they always initial. And make sure you don't accidentally skip a page, that's easy to do. So make sure every page is initial. The next line that we're gonna fill in is the escrow agent. What, or pardon me, but who would be the escrow agent? Providence Realty. I had someone ask earlier, I had David to ask earlier, why wouldn't it be the closing attorney? Because here in the Fayetteville area, it seems like when, many of the contracts that he gets, if they always want it to be deposited, or many of the offers he receives, they want it to be deposited at the closing attorney rather than the listing agent. The reason for this is that in our area, a lot of agencies now prefer to have the earnest money and all monies deposited with a closing attorney so that they do not have a trust account on the property, because they don't want to ever get into any type of financial trouble due to commingling. And so that's why they don't want that liability. So oftentimes firms will use the closing attorney to hold the escrow money, or not escrow, well, yes, the escrow money. That will be the escrow account for the earnest money. Now, what was the end of the due diligence period? They have it from now, from the date that the offer becomes a contract, until what date for the due diligence period? Very good, October 10th, and when was the closing date? October 31st. Now, if they decided to have a home inspector come and then they placed a request for repairs on October the 10th at 7 p.m. That's right, it's too late, because time is of the essence, and look at the time right here. 5 o'clock is when that due diligence period stops, right then. So they have to make sure that they get all their requests in prior to that. What types of things would they do during this due diligence period? What are some of the things that the buyer might want to have done? Inspections, survey, if he wants to have a survey done, absolutely. Termite inspection, septic inspection, if it's on a septic tank. Appraisal, very good. These are just some of the things. There's a lot of things that people want to take care of. And once they have that home inspection done and they find out there's some repairs that they can't live with, at that point, they are going to turn in a particular form. What would that be?
Additional provisions.
Now, wait a minute, that comes with the offer. We're talking about during the due diligence period after they have the home inspection. Due diligence request, due diligence and repair request, that's right. On that particular form, during that due diligence period, they will put in a repair request based upon what they discovered during that due diligence period of time. Now, in regards to the deck and the door locks, that is going to be on the additional provisions, okay, addendum. And also the time frame, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Now, at the bottom of this page, we make sure that our buyers initial it. Then we're going to go to our next page. Were there any fixtures or exclusions? Was there anything that was stated that they did not want from the seller? Absolutely not. So what would we do there? NA, very good. And when it comes to personal property, remember a few moments ago we were talking about being precise in regards to the address. This is another place you want to make sure you're precise. They want that refrigerator. Remember, I told you that that refrigerator was a very nice, expensive refrigerator. It was a high-end refrigerator. What should they do in this offer to make sure that they get that refrigerator and they don't just go buy one used somewhere and switch it out? Very good. The name, the model, the manufacturer. I even have had some agents take a picture of it. Just make sure you're precise, that you get what you requested. Excellent. And then we're going to initial here, and we will go to the next page. Is there anything that we need to fill in the blank on this particular page. Just the initials, that's correct. Have them initial the bottom. Now we are at buyer representations. This is in regards to the loan amount. This is a very important portion here. Now, does this buyer have to get a loan? Yes, so we will check yes there. What type of loan does he need? VA. At this point, we are going to put in the balance. So you put in the balance there. And the fixed rate, it's going to be a fixed rate. Let's just state that it's going to be 30 years. And at this point, let's say that the lender has given him a 3.5 fixed rate. You might want to go up a point or a point higher. I always put about a half a point higher, because say that the Simmons said, I absolutely refuse to purchase this house if it's any more than 4%. So they will put 4% here just to make sure during that due diligence period that he's able to get it for that rate. Now, for the Residential Property and Owners Association disclosure, did he receive a copy? Yes, he did. He received a copy, so you will mark that. Now, on the residential and property disclosure, the seller's agent will have them fill it out, and it will have all the details regarding that property. What are the 3 things that they can check on the residential property disclosure?
Yes.
Yes, no, and no representation.
Very good, Jim. Yes, no, and no representation. Absolutely. Do we as agents ever fill out the residential property disclosure if our clients beg us to?
No.
Absolutely not. We explain to them, no, we don't live in that house. We cannot be the one accountable for their property in regards to the residential property disclosure. So we cannot. So we make sure that they fill it out. And if they wish to put no representation, they put no representation. Yes, no. But they will also state there's some other questions in that residential property disclosure. The homeowners association, the name of the president, the name of how much it is per year. It also has stated in there the age of the structure, the age of the roof, the type of electricity that it has, whether it has gas, electricity, what have you. And all different types of questions are on that residential property disclosure. When your buyer gets the residential property disclosure, make sure they look it over very thoroughly, because it should give them some information. Same with the mineral and oil and gas rights disclosure, which is next. He also received that one, so we will make sure we will mark yes there as well. In regards to that, they can also list no representation, but they have to state whether they are severing it or not. They have to list whether they are severing the rights themselves or not. They will not know, possibly, that somebody in the past has severed it, but they know if they're going to sever it or not. But they can put no representation in regards to previous owners. I discovered that from an attorney in Raleigh when I was talking with him about the mineral and oil and gas rights mandatory disclosure. Is this going to be more important in the future here in Fayetteville? Yes, why? Something is happening in Fayetteville. Something's coming through North Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina.
Pipeline.
That's right, the natural gas pipeline is coming through here. So this is going to even be more important in the future. We're gonna have to know if that pipeline came through the property that we're listing and that we're selling. So this is something that we are going to even be more, we're gonna need to be a lot more conscious about in the future. Next, we're going to look, and it shows, we've looked at the buyer obligations. We're going to look at the seller representations. Has the seller owned the property more than a year based on the tax record?
Yes.
Yes, so we will mark yes. In regards to the lead-based paint, was the house built prior to 1978? No, so that is not necessary. If the house was built prior to 1978, is it important to include the lead-based paint disclosure?
Yes.
Absolutely. And what is the seller required to provide?
The EPA pamphlet.
That's right. That's correct, Shantae. They have to provide the pamphlet in regards to lead-based paint. Do they have to go and have it tested for lead-based paint, the seller?
No.
Absolutely not, but they do have to provide that pamphlet. Now we see a line here that talks about assessments and confirmed assessments that will be coming. What will we do in these two blank spaces? It tells us right here, insert something. That's correct. That's right, Julie. We will insert none in both of those spots, and then we will initial the bottom of the page. The name, address, on the next page, we see the name, address, and telephone number, and the president of the Owners Association or the association manager. We do not know the president's name, address, and contact information, but we know the name of the association, the Homeowners Association, so we can write in the Homeowners Association number, and you can also write in what the annual due is, what the dues are. Now, if this was an actual offer to purchase, and you were writing it up for a client, you will want to research and find out the name of the president, the contact information, the address, possibly the website. You want to be very thorough. But in this particular scenario, we don't have that information. Now we will initial the bottom, and then we will move, well, we won't initial it. Who will initial it?
The buyer.
The buyer. Very good. In regards to the taxes, the deed, the taxes, and the fees, who will be listed here? The buyers. And how will we list their name?
Full name.
Full legal name. Very good. Agreement to pay buyer expenses. What was the amount of closing cost? $4,000. That's correct. Now, there is a line here, but it's just dividing. It is a dividing line from one portion of the offer to the next portion. I've had some people that will initial it, not initial it, but will put NA, and then some people leave it blank. Home warranty. They requested a home warranty, but we don't know the name of the home warranty company, but we know the price. Where would we fill in the block, the block in here? No. Look again. The second one. Buyer may obtain a 1-year home warranty at the cost not to exceed $425, and the seller agrees to pay for it at settlement. Very good. Very good. And if you wish, put NA in the other blanks that you will not be using. Very good. That's right. It helps if you read the whole question. Thank you, Jim. Now, initial at the bottom, or have the buyer initial, have your buyer's initial. I'm so used to talking to my buyers and saying initial at the bottom, but you will have your buyer's initial. Cassandra, you may come back. You may come back. To the next page, did anybody request possession before or after closing?
No.
No, there's nothing needed there, no X's need to be put in that area. But what are the two addendums that need to be with this offer, that need to occupy this offer? There are additional provisions addendum and the FHA VA addendum. Very, very good. Now, and he just said an HOA addendum for this year. Now, at this point, we will have our buyers to initial, not initial, but to sign. They can initial each and every page. Now they're going to sign the offer to purchase, and they are going to date it. What was the date that this offer was being made? That's right, September 22nd. On the notice information, this is what you will provide for the listing agent, so they will know exactly who the agent is presenting this. They've changed it slightly this year where they have included the firm license number as well as the agent license number. So you need to find out what your firm's license number is if you don't know it off the top of your head, if you don't have it listed somewhere. And what I've done is, in all my contacts in regards to my firm, I've made sure that right underneath my firm name, I have the firm license number, so it's always readily available. I've memorized my own, but I'm still working on my firm's. But I'm one of those crazy people that I have my debit card memorized in my head and my bank account. That's just, I like numbers, so. Got to work on my license now, my firm license. So what will the name of the firm be?
Real-time realty.
Real-Time Realty. Now, if the buyer gives you permission, you may list their address, phone number, fax, and email. There are many times, many situations when my buyers request that I not provide them with their personal information. But with your buyer's permission, you can include their mailing address, their fax number, and their email, but you need to have their permission. So you will put down Real Time Realty. You are working as the buyer's agent. You will put down the firm license number, the address. You will write down the name of the agent. What is the name of the agent? Betty who? Oh, I know that one. Betty Rubble. Betty Rubble. Okay, and her license number, I'll give it to you, 234567. It's really not. That's just a made-up number and a make-up name, of course. And then you could just, since this is just a scenario and something fun for you to keep, you can put down the selling phone number, fax number, and also the email. You can make it up. And then also for the listing agent, are you going to have, unless that seller is living in that property, is it possible for you to not know their address? Is that a possibility? Absolutely, it's possible that you may not know their contact information, so you too may need to keep that blank. Because as a buyer's agent, you are not going to have that seller's phone number, and you're not going to have that seller's email address. You're going to have that listing agent's personal contact. So at that point, you will put down their information. They will include their own license number. They will include their own firm license number. And then on the back side, this is very important. If you've worked it out in a zip form or electronically, it's going to automatically put down what goes where. It's going to put down the seller's name when it comes to due diligence. It's going to put down the escrow account in regards to where the earnest money goes. Would they sign this if they don't have the money?
No.
No, because this acts as what? It is a receipt, so you want to make sure that they do not sign it. I was telling someone in the back of the room right before lunch, we were talking about this, and I think it was Shiv I was talking with. It was Shiv, wasn't it? And I had a seller, I was working as a buyer's agent, and I had a seller that I sent the contract to the listing agent, and the seller signed where the due diligence money had been received, and I called him back and I said, we haven't given you any money yet. You might want to have your seller get rid of that signature. And the listing agent was in shock. He said, I didn't even realize it. It completely slipped my mind. This can happen. So make sure you pay close attention. If the money has not been received, no signatures. If the money has been received, you make sure you have the signature, and then you keep a copy for yourself and give a copy to the agent that you're doing the cross sale with. And also, the lender's going to need a copy of the whole contract once it's formed, and who else? The closing attorney. And who provides those most of the time? The buyer's agent. Most of the time, the buyer's agent provides it to their lender and their closing attorney. Very good. Now, at this point, we've got a little bit more that we are going to do in regards to our scenario. You've done very good. Betty completes the offer to purchase. We've just completed it, and we are Betty in this scenario. Betty completes the offer to purchase for her buyers and remembers that from her pre-licensing class, she was taught about how to make an offer for a specified period of time, and also to include repairs. Any repairs. Remember, we had repairs in regards to that particular offer. Believing that it would be wise to do so, Betty completes the appropriate paperwork to keep the offer open for 3 days and include the repairs. We briefly mentioned it earlier, but what is the document that we will use? Very good. We will use the additional provisions addendum. Now, in this particular addendum, I want you to look at the board right now. Look at the slide. You will notice on this particular slide that it shows where the repairs are stated in the middle of the additional addendum, but at the top, it's going to give them the day that they want this offer to be accepted. And they've given them 3 days to accept this offer. I'm gonna tell you a secret. If I'm just working with a standard seller, I've never given them 3 days. I usually give them about 24 to 48 hours, and they're doing good if I give them 48. I usually give them about 24 hours. If you're working with a short sale, or if you are working with a foreclosure, you're going to have to use a much longer period of time because you're dealing with banks and also with closing attorneys and things like that. So you may want to consider that. But when you're working with just a seller, usually they're wanting to sell their house as quickly as your buyer is wanting to purchase that home. So this is the form that you will use. Now, in addition to this, there was another form that we needed. What was that form?
FHA.
That's right, the FHA VA addendum. Very good. Now, in regards to this form, there is some, yes, I see a hand back here. Joey?
Yeah, so there's not like a certain, I mean, is there a certain amount of time you have to give somebody to get back to you?
Well, on the form, repeat that question, Joey.
So as far as the additional provisions addendum, is there a certain time that you have to give somebody?
Okay, Joey just stated, is there a specific amount of time that you have to give a buyer in order to get back to you? I mean, a seller in order to get back to you in regards to purchasing a property? He's asking, if I may clarify, are you asking, can you just give them an offer and leave it open-ended forever?
Well, that ain't, I mean, can you give them an hour?
You can give them whatever time you want. Whatever you wish to put on there, you could put on there. As to whether they'll respond is a question, but if you just gave them an hour with time being of the essence and they didn't receive that contract, the contract would no longer be any good. So it's wise to give them a specific amount of time, which will give them the opportunity to look at the contract, to determine the contract. You know, is this what I want? I need to speak with my spouse. I need to speak with my children. And I would give them at least 24 hours, at least, just to give them a time to mull it over, time to speak with their family. Now, thank you, Joey, for that question. Now, in regards to the FHA VA addendum, what is so special about this particular addendum? Remember, in regards to the due diligence, at 5 o'clock on October the 10th, the due diligence period is over. That's right. Now, Jim just said if it doesn't appraise, in regards to the the FHA VA addendum, they will still get their earnest money back, even if it's past the due diligence period. But if they do not include this form, they're in trouble. They lose their earnest money because it's going to be like any other contract. Any other contract. The FHA and the VA give you the opportunity to get your earnest money back if it doesn't appraise past the due diligence period. And there's another thing also. Yes, Teresa, did you have a question?
I do. Would they get their due diligence money back in that case?
When you look at the FHA and VA addendum, it clearly states earnest money deposit. Due diligence money is not included in that. So it only states earnest money. Teresa just asked, is the due diligence money included in the FHA VA addendum? And I just told her that I have read over the FHA VA addendum and the earnest money is stated clearly, but there's no reference to the due diligence whatsoever. Another thing in regards to this property is if they wish to pay the difference, say the house does not appraise and there's a deficit and they've got to pay more, they have got to pay more. And thank you, Teresa, that is a good question. And if they've got to pay more, then they have to prove to the Veterans Department, my mind went blank. Veterans Department Affairs. They have got to prove to them where that money came from, and it's got to be accepted and approved by them. So this is something, and the seller can also reduce the price. So they could get their they can get their earnest money back. They could pay the difference that if it has been accepted by the Veterans Affairs, the Department of Affairs, or the seller can reduce the price in order to sell the property. So this is a very important form. Make sure you always include it when you're dealing with an FHA or a VA. Yes, I see another hand.
Curtis.
Curtis?
So would you say it would be wise to extend your due diligence period out past the appraisal time for VA or FHA?
Well, if you have an FHA or VA, it can go past due diligence. It's okay. Curtis just asked, should we extend the due diligence period with the FHA or VA?
If you forget to do the form.
You're right. That is right. If you forget to do the form, then you need to extend the due diligence. But if you forget to do the form, do you think that your buyer is going to be very happy with you? Oh no. Because if they put a large earnest money deposit down and they lose that, they're going to be furious. In regards to a standard form, if you've not gotten, thank you, Mark, if you have not gotten your appraisal back, if you've not received the appraisal back in a specific period of time, you're going to want to extend that due diligence period. But does the seller have to agree to extend it? No, he does not. So you kind of fall on the mercy of the seller. So, very good question. Thank you, Curtis. Betty is about to send the offer to George. She's got it ready. She's about to send the offer to George, and she's excited. She's got all the addendums that she needs. She's got the offer ready, and then all of a sudden she receives a call from Bernie. And Bernie tells Betty that he and his wife have been talking, and they've decided that putting in a full offer is putting too much on the table. They want some room to negotiate. So he tells her, let's reduce it to $195,000 and keep everything else the same. And she said to Bernie, well, if we do that, we're going to need to rewrite the contract. And Bernie, he doesn't want to be bothered, so he said, oh, no, don't worry about that. Just cross through it and put 195 and send it on over. Now, Betty takes the appropriate action. What do you think Betty should do?
Rewrite the contract.
Okay, Earl?
They answered.
They answered, rewrite the contract. Does she have to rewrite every page of the contract?
Or she could have scratched through that, put the correct one, and then got an initial.
I would say no, because then you're giving away that you're willing to pay full price.
That's true. Jim, if she had scratched through it, initialed it, at that point, oh, what, pardon me?
I said that's what we were talking about.
Yes, if she had scratched through it and put the lower price there, she would have been giving, you know when you're playing a game of cards, you don't always put your whole hand out, but she would have been putting the hand down. She had given him all of her information right there. Bernie would have just disclosed all of the information. I'm willing to pay full price, but maybe not. And then scratch through it and initial it. That would not be to his best interest. So as a good agent, the wise thing would be is to sit down and talk to your buyer and say, the only thing we need to change is the front page, and I believe it's page 4, where the loan information is listed. Those are the only 2 pages that we need to rewrite. You need to rewrite those pages and have the buyers initial it, and then present it and explain to him, if we don't, you've already told him you were actually willing to pay full price. Is that little bit of writing and that little bit of initial worth that amount of money? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because it would be the difference between $195 and $198.5. Those initials will be worth $3,500. And I do not know a buyer that would not be willing to do that. So it's very wise to just change those 2 pages and present it back to and then give it to George. So she calls up George, she gets George on the phone, she's all excited about her offer. Because when you're putting in an offer, do you get excited? Yeah. I do, I get very excited. She contacts George, she says, I've got an offer coming to you, and I'm getting ready to run it by you. And he tells her, oh, I'm looking forward to meeting you, looking forward to receiving your offer. I hope we can work together. I'll enjoy working with you. But in the past, George is telling Betty this, in the past, I have had trouble with some buyers' agents misunderstanding the commission split. So do me a favor. When you send me the offer over, include a statement that our commission split is 50-50 between the buyer and the seller. What should Betty do?
Send a separate commission agreement.
Okay, Jim just said send a separate commission agreement, completely apart from the offer, completely apart, or send an email possibly, Jim? Send an email stating that Real-Time Realty is aware of the 50-50 commission split. Okay, Shantae, what were you gonna say?
Can it also include like the confirmation of compensation sheet with the offer? So I received that with an offer.
I would not include it with an offer. I would make sure that that went to the firm, apart from the offer. Apart from the offer. Because you never include, okay, Shantae just asked, could she include the confirmation of compensation form with the offer? And I said if she was going to send that, make sure it was completely apart from the offer. She had made the statement that she has received an offer with that form included, but we are never to include information in regards to our compensation with an offer, nor are we to use a disclaimer stating that we have no recourse in regards to this property, that we are not responsible. We cannot do that either. No disclaimers and no commission. Yes, Teresa?
Was the confirmation already spelled out in the MLS?
It should be. It should be. Teresa just asked me, wasn't the commission already spelled out in the MLS? And yes, it should be. Is it always though? Are there sometimes errors in the MLS? Absolutely. Sometimes there are errors in the MLS. But most of the time it is spelled out. So very good. So we know that she does not include the commission split in that offer. So at this point, George receives the offer. So George is going to receive the offer and he's going to take it to his seller. And this is going to be the seller's response. Have you ever had sellers that get just overwhelmed when they get offers?
Yeah.
They don't know what to do, especially when it's an offer lower than what they are willing to receive. Absolutely. And this is what happens. As George receives this offer, he's on his way to take it to the seller, and he gets a phone call from another agent that also has an offer. So he gets both of these offers, he's got them in his hands, he's headed to the seller. How does he present these offers to the seller? At the same time, in no particular order, right? At the same time. And when he presents these to the seller says, oh, I've got two offers. He's all excited. I'm going to sell this house. I have two offers. I want to counter both of these offers. That's what he tells George. I want to counter both of these offers, and I want you to tell the Simmons, that this is what I want. I want them to increase the earnest money deposit to $2,500. I want $500 due diligence fee. I want the full asking price, and I will also do everything else they want. In other words, I'll give them the refrigerator, and I will also provide for them the home warranty. But I want you to counter both of them. So what is George to do? Yes, sir.
Submit the 340T response to buyer file.
Very good. Submit the 340T response to buyer's offer. This is the form that you will provide. The response to buyer's offer. Whoops, excuse me. The response to buyer's offer. What is this? What is this actually? What is this 340T actually? Is it a counter offer to both offers? Is it a counter offer to both? Yes, Earl?
No, it cancels.
That's right. Earl just stated it is not a counter offer. It kills both offers. Both offers are now dead. There is no offer on the table. And what the seller has actually done is he has sent both buyers a wish list of what he wants. He has stated, I want full price, I want $2,500 earnest, I want $500 due diligence money, I will only pay, I don't even want to pay any closing cost, and I will give you whatever else you want. But the first one that tells me what I want to hear, I will accept that offer. That's pretty much what he's saying. So he's killed both offers and he's given them a wish list. So the Simmons receive this. And at this point, what happens is that the Simmons have it, George gets back to the seller and discovers that the other buyers have just dropped out. They're like, forget that. I'm not gonna give them full price, forget it, I'll find another house just like it down the street. So the only offer that is now available is going to be the Simmons offer. So now the Simmons write up a new offer. But before this happens, the seller wants George to tell him that the original offer that they received from the first buyer was for $197,000. Can he do that? Absolutely not. Why not? Why can George not tell Betty about that other buyer's offer being $197,000? Has the buyer given permission?
No.
Has the seller given, even if the seller gave permission, would he still be able to do it? No, because would that be honest? That would not be honest. And our clients, we are the fiduciary to our clients. We are to treat them better than we treat ourselves. But we are to be honest to the other agents. And if he were to tell the amount of money that that other buyer put in, would that be honest to that other buyer? That would be wrong. That would be wrong. So at this point, George contacts the Simmons. They've got the wish list. They've got the buyer's response to the offer, and they submit a new contract. Because why would they have to submit a new contract? That's right. The other one's been killed. The other one's dead in the water. So they write a new contract, and in this contract, what they did is they offered $197,000. They agreed to the earnest money of $2,500. They agreed to the due diligence of $500, but they still wanted a little bit of closing costs paid by the seller. So they said, we would like the seller to pay at least $2,000. We would like $2,000. We still want that nice refrigerator, and we still want that home warranty in case anything were to go wrong. And they still want that deck to be repaired and the back door, right? Because all the other things the seller had said in his wish list that he would do. So they submit that to the seller at this time, and what happens? What happens in that scenario when they tell the buyer with that new offer what they would like from the seller? When the buyer tells the seller and writes up that new offer, this is what we want, what does the seller say to them? Look at the scenario.
Don't pay $1,000.
He agrees to everything except what? The closing cost. He said, I will only pay $1,000 towards your closing cost. Isn't that right, Mark? So Mark just said he agreed to everything except the closing cost. So he does a counter offer. He scratches through the $2,000 and he writes in $1,000 and he sends it back to George. George sends it back to Betty to take to the buyers. Is everybody following me? And they initial the change. Very good, Earl. They initial that change. And then when the buyers get it, they are tired of this dance. They're like, I'm tired. I'm tired. And so at this point, they accept it. And they even state, we've got pretty much everything we want. $1,000 is better than nothing. So they initial the change. And at this point, they have a meeting of the minds, right? But I want you to look at this particular time frame here. Whoa, excuse me. Pardon me, excuse me. My fingers got a little happy there. I want you to look at this particular time frame. Betty then shoots George a text message at 10:10, telling him that her clients signed. George responds immediately, yay! The buyers email a scanned copy of the signed contract to Betty at 8:30 on Tuesday morning. Betty forwards George the email with a scan of the signed copy at 9 a.m. George checks his email at 11. George then forwards a copy of the contract to his clients at 11:30 a.m. Keep an eye on the time. And the sellers check their email and receive the contract at 1:30 p.m. When was the contract formed?
10.
And why? Yes. It became a binding contract at 10:10 because that was when it was communicated. Very good. Now let's do a very brief review. form did we use to create the sales contract? Offer to purchasing contract 2T. What was the form that we used for the length of repairs and also for the time frame for the offer? The additional provisions addendum. Very good. What was the government loan addenda that we used? FHA, VA addendum. Very good. What was the form that we used that was the seller's reaction to the offer? Excellent. Very, very good. I am so proud of you. You did good. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. And I want you to have a break, and we'll be back in about 15 minutes.